A billionaire cowboy overheard, "I never get a day off." What he did next changed a western town forever. The tray shook slightly in her hands. Not because it was heavy, but because exhaustion had finally reached her bones. "I swear," the young woman muttered under her breath as she passed the rough wooden table, "I never get a day off." The words weren't meant for anyone. They slipped out the way tired prayers do, quiet, worn, and unnoticed. Or so she thought. Across the dimly lit saloon, a man stood just inside the swinging doors, a wide-brimmed hat held against his chest. Dust clung to his coat, and the long road still lived in his eyes. He had meant only to step in for water, maybe a meal before moving on. But those words stopped him cold. "I never get a day off." Her name was Clara Mayfield. At 22, she had already lived a lifetime of responsibility. Since her father's passing and her mother's illness, Clara had taken over everything. Waiting tables by day, cleaning rooms by night, tending to customers who never noticed the ache behind her smile. The saloon wasn't kind, but it paid just enough to keep the lamps lit at home. That night, the crowd was louder than usual. Laughter, cards slapping tables, whiskey glasses clinking. Clara weaved through it all, apron stained, feet screaming, eyes heavy with a tiredness no sleep could cure. She didn't notice the man watching her. Elias Crow was known in some circles as a legend. A cattle magnate. A landowner. A billionaire cowboy who'd built an empire from dirt and grit. Yet few recognized him without his tailored coat and polished boots. Tonight, he looked like any other drifter passing through, except his eyes carried something different. They carried memory. Elias had once been that tired too. He took a seat near the wall and ordered nothing more than water. As Clara set the glass down, he saw it clearly now. The tremor in her fingers, the faint bruise of sleepless nights beneath her eyes. "You work hard," he said gently. She smiled out of habit. "Someone's gotta." When she turned away, Elias heard a man at another table snap his fingers, demanding service like she owed him more than her labor. Clara stiffened, swallowed her pride, and went anyway. Something tightened in Elias's chest. Later, as the crowd thinned and the lanterns burned low, Clara leaned against the bar for just a second. Only a second, before the owner barked her name. That was when Elias stood. He placed a folded bill on the counter. $100 note, more money than most folks in town saw in weeks. "For the water," he said. Clara's eyes widened. "Sir, that's too much." "Not for me," he replied. "But maybe for you." Their eyes met. And for the first time in years, someone looked at her not as a worker, but as a person. Elias left without another word. The next morning, the town woke to rumors. A stranger had bought the old land east of town. The abandoned mill. The broken-down ranch. Folks whispered about big money, big plans, but no one knew why. Then came the notices. Paid days off. Fair wages. Medical care. Profit sharing. A new ranch was hiring. And the name at the bottom of every paper was E. Crow. Clara didn't believe it at first. She stood frozen, reading the notice again and again, her hands shaking worse than they had the night before. Paid days off. That felt like a dream meant for other people. But she applied. So did half the town. Within months, the ranch became more than a workplace, it became a lifeline. Families moved out of debt. Children returned to school. The mill reopened, not as a factory of exhaustion, but as a cooperative where workers had a voice. And Clara? Elias offered her a position managing operations. "I don't have the schooling," she protested. "You have something better," he said. "You know what it means to be tired, and still show up." She accepted. On the ranch's opening day, the town gathered beneath a wide western sky. Elias stood before them, hat in hand, quieter than anyone expected a billionaire to be. "I once overheard a woman say she never got a day off," he told them. "It reminded me of who I used to be, and who I forgot along the way." He paused, eyes finding Clara in the crowd. No town should survive on the exhaustion of its people. There were tears that day. Not loud ones, quiet, grateful ones. Years later, travelers would ask how such a small western town managed to thrive when so many faded away. The locals would smile. They'd talk about fair work. About kindness. About a cowboy who listened. And Clara, now respected, rested, and finally hopeful, would sometimes stand in the saloon doorway at sunset, remembering the night everything changed. All because someone heard 3 simple words. "I never get a day off." And chose to do something about it.